You know, Thanksgiving is a great time of year, and not just because we get to pig out, watch football, get drunk, spend money on shit we don't need, but truly get to take a time to reflect about things we are thankful for. I have a list that is so incredibly long. There are two things I'm very thankful about today I want to address. Number one is you guys. You are awesome. How you support the channel, you watch the videos, you comment, you like, you share. I can't thank you guys enough, but I'm going to try. Second thing I'm thankful is for great statue companies and great statue distributors. There are so many of them out there. Today I'm extremely thankful for Spec Fiction, because after we review this $2,000 rare Nemesis Prime Transformer statue, Spec Fiction and the Extreme Channel are giving it away to one of you. In just under 2 weeks is the Rochester Toy Hunt. Again, make sure to check it out. I will be there. There's a link in the description below for tickets. If you're anywhere in the New York area near there, make sure to come sometime that weekend for comic books and other cool collectibles to find. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Extreme Channel. My name is Mr. X, and I am about extreme collectibles. And for the longest time, I owned a lot of large Transformer statues. You can actually check out this video right here where I did a tour. And that didn't include every single Transformer statue I had. So this is of Nemesis Prime, which I have also owned a statue of Nemesis Prime. You can check it out right here. It's made by a company called XM Studios, really well known. Now the company that made this isn't as well known, but they came into the scene extremely hard with their Transformer pieces. They are called Azure Sea, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So this is my first piece I've seen from them, and they are impressive. I'm going to let you guys know that right now. It makes me regret getting out of the Transformer game. I can tell you right now, too, as impressive as XM Studios' Nemesis Prime was, this one is even more impressive for so many different reasons we're going to cover on the review. I truly do envy whoever's going to end up with this, and I don't envy a lot of people or things. But as I said, this is Nemesis Prime. If you're unfamiliar with who that is kind of an alternate version of Optimus Prime. So the leader of the Autobots. This is a Decepticon who pretty much has a lot of Optimus Prime's powers. You can actually see he's actually a semi, he's formed just like him. Now they actually base this off of their Optimus Prime version that they did first right here, which actually has the same stance. So this is kind of what we would call a variant of that. Now because it's a variant, they didn't make many of these. And in my opinion, I always like an evil version of people. So I really like Nemesis Prime. I grew up with Generation 1 Transformers, watching the shows, having the toys. So this is also a good throwback to that. But let's jump in with the review, and there's a lot of things they did that I think make this superior to some of the other Nemesis Prime statues out there, because I believe Prime 1 makes one as well. On the base here, you have some type of ship and a battle going on. So I think the ship is a combination of maybe it's the ship or Cybertron or something of that nature. You see a removable Decepticon logo we're going to talk about. And you see explosions everywhere. So this is very action dynamic. They have clouds of smoke. They have rocks flying off. They have a little bit of thruster explosion of a missile. So maybe things are coming out, things are going in. And this is a very dynamic Transformer statue. Typically with statues this big, they're more of a museum pose, like they're posing for a picture. They don't have a lot of fluidity or movement to them, but this does. So obviously Nemesis Prime is in his robotic form, not his semi-truck form, but you can see the parts of the semi throughout. So he's standing up on top in a battle position. That's what I would call it. Now there's some different switch out options. There's quite a few of them actually, but they all tell a very similar story as usual. He's up top and he is in the middle of battle. So right here, how I have him displayed, one arm he has a sword, one arm he has a gun, and again, I told you there's a lot of different switch-out options. His chest plate is open. We'll talk more about that. But he looks badass. He looks evil. A lot of dark colors to this, and that's another thing I'm going to let you guys know right now. Make sure to stay tuned for the close-up video during paint and sculpt. Because of the bright spotlights and the black reflective surfaces, the lighting isn't the best right now, but it will be later. On another note, you're probably wondering, how do I win this statue? So if you're wondering how to win this, stay tuned till later in the video. I love the concept. I think they took everything to the next level. If you're going to get a Transformer statue, I think the only negative is you can't really see him in his semi-form. So I think it's a 4 out of 5, very close to a 5 out of 5. but there should have been some type of semi-transition. Like, I like what XM Studios does. They offer a smaller model of what they transform into. I'm not saying that was the way to go with this, but it would have been cool to see something creative with homage to what he transforms into. Design. Now, when I assembled this beast, it took about 35 minutes, which is a long time because the instructions were shit. But then when I was doing a little bit more research on him, I actually looked up Spec Fiction's website. Make sure to check out the link in the description below because Spec Fiction sells every type of statue you can imagine, and they have fantastic deals and fantastic customer service. And if you want to save money, actually use the code EXTREME20. You can actually save money on every single order. However, I was looking up on their website, and there's an assembly video right on there. So I totally missed that. I probably could have saved 20 minutes of my life. While assembly was difficult, it wasn't horrible or anything. So here is a video of the unboxing and assembly. Two very large, heavy boxes you can see right here. And they did come with a certificate of authentication. You can see right here, this was number 37 of 50. They were packed in custom white foam. Now, one of the things you're going to see is there's some empty spaces. That's because I assume they use this exact same packaging as they did for Optimus, and it doesn't have all the switch outs that Optimus had. But as you can see, quite a few pieces on every single level. Pretty cool. Measure him. For exact dimensions, again, go to Spec Fiction's website. And this is kind of difficult because there's things protruding everywhere. So the absolute widest point, as far as I can tell, is about 31 inches. This is actually 1/10 scale, if I recall correctly, so 10 times smaller than a real-life version. He's about 19 inches deep, more with the sword. And then the tallest part, if you're having the switch-out gun, which is an option, is almost 37 inches. So absolutely giant, huge statue. Again, the dimensions are going to vary a little bit, but just plan to have a ton of space if you win him or if you decide to purchase him. They are available at Spec Fiction. So I keep saying there's a lot of switch out options, so let's look at those. First and foremost, right here, the Decepticon logo. I love that it's its own separate stand. Some people like to display these, some don't. Almost every single statue company that makes these actually make it part of the statue and you can't remove it. So I think that is a huge pro. Also, there's a switch out on the base, which I don't have a second picture of. So what that is a lot of this smoke, if it's too much and jutting out too much for you, you can replace it with a smaller version. The reason why I don't have a photo is I would have to disassemble everything for that. But I do have photos of the rest of the switch outs. On the left arm, he can be pointing. I'm not a fan of this. If I was keeping this, this would go right back in the box, but some people may like it, kind of telling his opponents, you're next. Or he has an Energon sword, and I really like what they did. We'll talk more about these with paint and sculpt. On his right arm, it can be hanging down to his side with another Energon sword. That's pretty badass, in my opinion. Or an Energon axe, also badass, trademark of Nemesis Prime. Or he can switch out his arm where it's pointing up, and he can have this big-ass gun. And with this big-ass gun, there's also another option. You can have a smoke cloud or plume coming out of it or not. It's up to you. Now his chest can be closed or it can be open, and as you see, there is a light up feature for his chest and his head. And there are two different portraits. They have two different masks on them. That's the difference between these two right here. So cool they offer that option. Very Generation 1 style. A lot of different ways you can display it, and other than the pointing finger, which I kind of like, it's just not for me, I think they're fantastic options in my opinion. Now, everything fit together really well. Like I said, it was a little complicated to put together, but I have no issues with the assembly. It does take up a lot of room, but all Transformer statues do. I feel his head is a little bit underscaled, but that's true to the character, so I can't fault them for that. They could have added more light-up features, but honestly, I never used those on any of the Transformer statues I had. So really, I think the design is also a 5 out of 5. It's very complex. It works well. The only negatives, it takes up a lot of room, but what Transformer statue doesn't? Now, we're going to dive into the paint and sculpt. Now, there's a lot of dark colors on here, which makes it a little bit harder to interpret, but I like it. And you know what they say about black? It's the lack of any color. What were you thinking? All right, let's dive into this guy. And again, the light's truly not doing it justice. But on the base here, I'm going to start with the smoke, which in my opinion isn't bad. Smoke's very hard to do, billowing smoke. I've never seen it done excellent. I think it's good. It's not excellent. And I think that the fact that they went with the dark smoke, which makes sense because it's explosions, doesn't give it enough variance, but it looks nice. So the billowing looks good. Could have been a little bit better on the sculpt, I think. And the pieces flying out, the shards are pretty fantastic. Here's that rocket. I'm not sure if I'm digging the paint around where the rocket goes in or the fire coming out of the back. Could have added some orange or red to that, I think. But I love the spaceship or Cybertronian base. Looks fantastic. The battle damage is sculpted in there. The detail of different mechanisms, just like we're going to actually see on Nemesis as well. But where it's broken off on the back here, that's pretty cool too. And then a booster down here with a lot of cool intricate detail. And I love the colors they added. That orange almost makes it look like it's cooling down. I think that was smart. Decepticon symbol. I mean, that's hard to mess up. Looks good. I like that it's a little bit lighter silver than the shading they added to the rest of it. But so very cool base. And I like that it's so different. A little bit of Cybertronian writing down there. And again, a lot of the same comments about the billowing smoke in back. Now, Nemesis Prime, a lot of blacks and silvers and whites, with one exception. You got some purple on the rims here. I think that gives it a nice variance. But I love the outer armor on here, or the plating that was on the semi. It's not too bright. It's not too dull. I think it's absolutely perfect. They did a really nice job there with the paint. And again, what I love about this is you can see the inner circuitry of the robot. You can see parts of the semi. Exhaust is on the top there. We'll look at that in a second. The tires look nice. And just like most Transformer statues, the more you look into it, the more you see. I mean, you could literally find new stuff for hours. Decepticon symbol kind of hidden right there. Now, one thing that's neat is because there's dynamic action to this and his body is twisting, you can see it. You can see almost like the skirt parts that I want to say are folding up in different areas because you see that twist. So I think that's pretty cool. Or even the plating up here, how it moves up this direction. So I think that was very smart. Then there's an Energon source in the middle with all the wires going to it. I think that looks fantastic. You can barely see it through that. Portrait is good. So like I said, it looks a little undersized, but I think that's true to the character. The other portrait, like I said, very small differences, just the mask differences. Both have the light up feature. This one doesn't have the ridges on the bottom of the mask, but I think they could have varied that up a little bit more. Not really a paint or sculpt thing. I love the Energon weapons. I love this translucent effect that they did. It looks really good. I think it's the best way to make it look glowing when it's not actually glowing. Here's the axe. And then there's even some detail in there, which I think is cool. Fantastic job on that. Even some hoses and things of that nature. Let's check out his big-ass gun. Who doesn't love a big-ass gun? Same comments about the billowing smoke up here, but the gun looks great. And then here's his back. A lot of the same, but you can see the exhaust there. Really well done, in my opinion. Props to this company. Like I said, I've never had a piece from them on my table, but I think they're coming out really strong. And they may be around longer than I knew of, but recently I just heard about them with these Transformer pieces. All right, let's talk about the paint. I love the paint. Like I said, it's the perfect. It's not too shiny, but it's not too dull. I think it's a 4 out of 5. I think it could have been a little bit better in the areas we talked about, but not bad at all. Sculpt. The only thing I'm not digging is the smoke, and I still think it's okay. But I love what they did with the sword. I love the gun. I love the armor. I think the sculpt's a 5 out of 5. This guy is really, really impressive what they did. You know, it's kind of hard making animation come to life and then improving on it, but still staying true to that animation. And I feel like they did that with the sculpt on this piece. Now let's talk about value. So Nemesis Prime isn't as popular as he should be, in my opinion, because a lot of people will have an Optimus Prime statue and they don't want one that's just like that if they're going to drop a lot of money, because this costs a lot of money. This was $2,000. And as I said, there are a few other good Nemesis Prime statues out there. Prime 1 Studios has one, the XM one that I've owned. Although I do think this is superior to those. Now, I think the real edge this guy has is they only made 50 of these. Only 50 were made, 50. That is an extremely low edition size. A lot of props to them. No doubt they will sell out and this will be wanted. Now, $2,000 for a statue this big and a Transformer statue is kind of the going price. So I think the value is a 4 out of 5. I think this will be wanted. I don't think there's going to be a lot of other Nemesis Prime statues that come out. And like I said, in my opinion, I think this is the best one so far. Now, does he have the X Factor? Is he a 5 out of 5 statue? He is really impressive without a doubt. You know, X Factor is when you walk by, do you stop? Is it something you look at? The problem is people who don't know Transformers don't really know Nemesis Prime. They all know Optimus. And thanks to Michael Bay, they all know Bumblebee. But I don't know. I still think overall he's a 4 out of 5, and it might be partly because of the character. I don't know what it is that's quite, I don't want to say it's missing because it's still an absolute phenomenal statue. Now you have two ways to get him. Like I said, number one is Spec Fiction. Check out the link in the description below and make sure to use the code EXTREME20 to get some money off your purchase. Or you can try and win him. Now we're going to use Gleam. If you've never used Gleam before, essentially it's a link to a bunch of social medias for both the Extreme channel and Spec Fiction. So that link is in the description below as well underneath Spec Fiction. Click on that, and the more ways you follow both Spec Fiction and the Extreme channel, we're talking about Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that, the more entries you will have into winning this. We will do a drawing at the beginning of December, and we will announce the winner on all the different social medias that you should already be following, because that's how you enter through the contest. The winner will also not have to pay for shipping. And not to mention that, but you have my DNA on this. I like the DNA that's always on crime movies. Why is it always sperm and blood? I mean, sometimes it's just, you know, the skin. Hey, thank you so much, guys. I say that every video, and I really mean it, but Thanksgiving week, I really mean it. A huge thanks to Spec Fiction. If you think this is cool, just give a like to the video. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe, because you have to be subscribed to win. But in the meantime, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.